everybody. Welcome to Conventional Wisdom Sucks. I am Ann Riley, and I'm really happy to be here today because I think we're finally going to start to move away from this sort of introduction ideas into the real meat of the topics I want to discuss. But I want to wrap up this whole idea about God. We kind of have in humanity the conventional wisdom that God exists. And I think I have made the case that God is a concept that is unprovable and therefore is sort of a belief rather than a fact. So, what's interesting is that the concept of God is universal, even though it's certainly not a unifying concept in humanity today. We have zillions of different types of gods, and it seems to drive us further apart, that idea, rather than together. So my question is, do you think that there is some foundational idea by which we could all coexist that could be considered conventional wisdom? This is what I've been thinking about, because when I moved away from religion, I had to think a lot about what replaced that. I have to say it took me a long, long time to get there because I was reluctant to give up those nice promises of eternal life for what? On the other hand, I didn't know. But I've been doing a lot of thinking about this, and I've written my ideas in a new book called The Human Idea, which is on Amazon and you can look at it. But what I really want to talk about today is there a universal idea that can serve as the foundation for humanity? Is there one idea that can bring us together? And if you want to answer that question, we have to go back and look at the place where we have repeatable and reliable information to look at. Now, we already know that is science, right? If we want to go back and look at whether something is true, we have to go to science and math. And I'm going to leave math out right now. So let's go to science. And scientists are loath to talk about things that veer into the sociological or even philosophical areas. They're scientists. They look at facts and they leave the facts as facts, which I totally respect, and I'm glad that they do. But that doesn't mean we can't look at the things they have found in their studies and see if they have any meaning for us as people who are just living our lives. So one of the things I want to talk about is, can we look in the scientific realm and see if anything has coexisted for a really, really long time, and not and done it successfully? So there's a real simple answer to that. We can go back 3.8 billion years when the first cell formed, and we know that cells still exist today. So we can conclude that cells have existed for 3.8 billion years. Now, that is not to say that they are unchanging for 3.8 billion years, because of course they've changed. They've gone from disorganized to organized to creating multi-celled creatures like you and me. But the cells still exist. So my question is, how did they do that? How did they not only survive, but they figured out how to cooperate together to make very complex bodies, again, like humans and tigers and fish. These are really complex. You have 35 trillion cells in you. All those cells work together to keep you alive. So the question is, how do they do that? And can we use that as a guide to tell us or show us how we could survive for longer than, a few thousand years? So let's look at what cells do. So cells have a unifying function, or a unifying characteristic. They all, in your body, all your cells share the exact same DNA, which means they all share the exact same instructions. But they don't all perform all the instructions. Each of them has their portion of instructions to fulfill. A blood cell does some things, a heart cell does others, kidneys do others, lung cells do other things. So they all share the same base, but they all have different functions. And one of the things they do is they do their job, and they don't do anything but their job. So if you look at how that works, you could say that all cells in a body do their jobs, but don't hurt any of the other cells. They coexist with them, right? They don't hurt them. So let's see if that idea of how cells cooperate in a body could be instructive for us as humans. So let's make some equivalents here. If there's a cell in a body, a cell is equivalent to a person, and a body is equivalent to our society. So cells live in a body and make up a body, just like people live in a society and make up a society. So if we can accept that that equivalency is at least parallel, it's not identical, but it's parallel, then we should be able to say, okay, so if cells do their job and don't harm anybody, can humans do that too? We just do our jobs and don't harm anybody. Well, humans aren't just job doers, right? We do a lot of things. We think. We can do all kinds of things that don't include our jobs. So we have to go a little bit further. We have to say that humans can choose their actions. They can choose to do whatever they want to do, in fact, because they're choosers. That's the human superpower, right? Choice. So we can say, what if we made the equivalent like this? Humans get to do whatever they want, but they can't harm each other. So what that does is allows humans to be as free as possible, but they're protected from harm by others, and others are protected from harm that might come from them. So this is, I think, a basic way, a basic foundation in which we could all agree and coexist. So first of all, I want you to think about that. That's really important, is for you to think hard on this and see if this is something that actually might work for people. Because if it is, and a lot of people agree that it is, we can start building a base of how to look at problems differently and have a lot of people agree that the foundation, even though our answers might be different, the foundation might be the same. And I think if we don't have that solid foundation, we can't coexist, at least peacefully. So that's what I want you to do. But I also want you to see that this idea is not new. It has been around for a long time. Hippocrates said, first, do no harm. And Jesus said, do unto others as you would have done unto you. That's like saying, don't harm anybody. If you don't want to harm yourself, don't harm anybody else, right? And even Martin Luther King Jr. said, insist upon your rights, but don't do violence to others. Same idea. Do what you want to do, but don't harm others in the process. So these are not new ideas, but I'm presenting them. What is different is I'm presenting them as grounded in nature, in something that has been doing this for 3.8 billion years and quite successfully. So that's what I want to be able to say, is we can look through history and look at these people who said, this is my idea. And it's not an original idea, but what's original about it is that it's grounded in real successful behavior that has been around for a really long time. Okay, so what I'm going to do, every episode from here on out, we're going to use this as our grounding principle. We're going to say, all right, if we have a problem or we're looking at how something is structured, we're going to say, how would a cell do it? How would a cell in a body do this? And then we have to adjust that because humans can choose. So we would say, how would we adjust this for the human ability to choose? And what would our solutions look like? What would our conventional wisdom ideas look like then? So that's where we're going. So I want to add a conventional wisdom item that I hope does not suck, which is that humans should be able to do anything they want in this world as long as they don't harm each other. All right, that's it. Next time we'll start on different issues and looking at them with this foundational base. Hope to see you then. All right, thanks. Bye.